I'll tell you when and how you can touch me. Behave, or I'll make you bleed. Okay. Was that an innuendo, or was that a threat? I think that was a threat, but that was a very sexy threat. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir David, and today I want to play just a teeny bit more of TOUCHSTARVED. In the last episode, we learned that everyone apparently knows each other now, so that's good. And at the end of that episode, I chose to follow Leander and see what he had to say, but I also had the choice to follow everyone else. So that's what I'm gonna do. So we already know what Leander has to say about everybody else, so I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say. Starting with eyes. Ice. Ice. Morbid curiosity draws me to eyes. I slink out of the back of the Wet Wick. Oh yeah, Eyes was in the midst of beating the crap out of somebody. The alley's dead silent. Not really what I expected from a fight. Ooh. Oh. A dull crunch reaching my ears, then a thud. I peer around the corner of the building, careful to keep hidden. Dark, glistening red splatters the ground, spidering through the seams of cobblestone. It guides my eye to a collapsed body across from me. Once so violent, the roughneck is now little more than a sack of crumpled flesh, blotted with mud. Eyes exhales, his breath misting against the cold air. Blood flecks his knuckles as he looms over the motionless body, his feet on either side of it. Fear spreads like ice in my bones. Moments ago he was joking and friendly with the others, but now Eyes' crimson eyes finds me in the dark. Not running, Sparrow? I warily rise to my feet, moonlight illuminating my face. I thought I was out of sight. Got eyes in the back of my head. Eyes steps off the roughneck. My eyes stay locked on the body. It's wet with layers of blood and grime, completely still. I think maybe there's a good chance that he ain't getting back up no more. He's alive. Are you sure? Calling me a killer? Or a liar? But you're not giving me much to work with here. I think you killed him. Killer. Must be scared. Yeah. You won't hurt me. It comes out more like a question. His eyes flick down my body, then up again. Not like him, at least. Oh no. His bloodied knuckles catch his attention. He tries to rub them clean, but ends up smearing the blood around more. I keep making bad impressions on you. I didn't know you cared about my opinion. Just prefer you didn't wet yourself when we talk. Annoyance bubbles in my chest. Well, I'm not wetting myself. Even with your bad impressions. You're covered in blood. I'm not scared. I'm totally not scared. I'm a little scared. You won't kill me. I have plot armor. Like the first time we met, Eyes chips away at my fear, replacing it with irritation instead. Eyes kneels before the roughneck and frisks him. I can't help but wonder if the crime was worth the punishment, but I hold my tongue. Deftly, Eyes' hands search through the roughneck's pockets. It doesn't take him long to find his prize. A cigarette and matchbox. He strikes a match, sparks light up his angular features with a golden glow. It's distracting for a moment, but my gaze inevitably drops back to the muddy body. You're just gonna leave him there? Eyes draws deep from the cigarette. He exhales heavily, smoke curling past his lips. I breathe in the sweet spice scent of cloves. As his tension melts away, he looks at me with cool lidded eyes. Should I give him a blanket? Unbothered by the maybe corpse, he takes a seat on the crate opposite the bar. I stand awkwardly, forgetting why I came out here in the first place. An unpleasant silence stretches between us. Weather's nice. Cold, murky, and humid, he means. I want to believe he's teasing me, but for all I know, this is pleasant for Eridia. Was Princess good company? Who? He takes another long drag. His metal rings catch the light of the cigarette in a flash of red. The soulless who escorted you back. You named it Princess? Jealous? I returned his smile. You have no idea. I think your nickname's more fitting. Sparrow. Not sure where Eyes got it from. Maybe I should tell him to call me by my name, but it's kind of nice. Not that I'd ever tell him that. Before I can dissect my feelings, I quickly change the subject back to the soulless. It was very cute. It was a very good girl. She was kind of cute, in a weird way. I patted her head. I glance absent-mindedly at my hand, remembering how she muzzled into my palm at my touch. Ice's eyes softened for a brief moment. Her tail wouldn't stop going when she got back. The group of them don't get much attention. Think she's cute now, wait till you see her tricks. You taught her tricks? Princess is a smart one. She'll learn anything if you have the right wards. Sounds about right. The idea of tamed soulless is still so outlandish to me. I was mauled by a mindless, bloodthirsty beast, and he's talking about them like they're pets. But it's possible, all because of the sea spring. I need to get the answers he wouldn't give me before. Oh yeah. I carefully take a seat beside him on the crate, contemplating my strategy. He doesn't seem to mind. He closes his eyes, tilts his head back against the wall, relaxed. He has such a pretty face. Without the pressure of his intense gaze, I feel myself ease up too, as long as I keep my attention away from the bloody heap across from us. I glance over at Eyes and allow my eyes to linger. A sea glass-colored tattoo spirals up his arm, painting over grooves of the muscle. Silver jewelry glints in the moonlight. It draws my eyes to his bare chest, rough hands, and curved jaw. His ears, his horns, his pupils, everything about him is sharp, even the fangs that only show when he grins. But as dangerous as he appears, I can't help wanting to know more. I wonder how recently he crossed over to this world, and why. What's your verdict? I whip my head in the opposite direction. What verdict? Got a long look. Are you impressed, or do I need work? Stop! My face grows hot. I've seen worse. I don't know if anything changes between those two things, but I guess I've seen worse. He responds with a low chuckle, draped in smoke. Keep staring, then. My embarrassment spikes. Without thinking, I blurt out a change in topic. I have questions about the sea spring. Boredom eclipses his amusement in an instant, and he closes his eyes again. Of course you do. I thought I made myself clear what you'd be giving up. Before you kicked me out to go drinking, I still need to know more. My turn for a question. It sounds more like an order than anything else. I bristle under his narrowed gaze. Fine. He takes a long pull from his cigarette and lets the smoke trail softly from his lips. Your curse. What about it? This song and dance is all too familiar. The selfish questions come first. What does it do? Is it painful? Can you control it? I brace myself for the inevitable onslaught. Is the thought of living with it really so unbearable? My dread dies with his words. No one has asked me that before. You've survived this long, unless you're running out of time. I'd wonder if it's really worth the sacrifice. He flicks the cigarette aside and props his head on blood-smeared knuckles. But what do I know? I'm just an outsider. My fingers fuss with the trim of my cloak. Ordinarily, I'd feel annoyed, but now my chest feels tight. You could have sold me if you were less honest. You're a crappy salesman. He laughs under his breath. Harsh words. We lapse into silence again. This time, it's surprisingly nice. The quiet, chilled air is a calming reprieve. You know, you didn't seem like an outsider back at the bar. A lot of people like you. Eyes raises a brow at me. I start by asking about, let's go right down the line. What about Vere? I was surprised to see that you and Vere were close. Blessing and a curse. From what I've gathered, most people think he's, I don't know, a butthole. And water's wet. I wait for him to elaborate or add his thoughts, but he doesn't. So, what do you like about him? He lets out a quiet laugh, as if amused by my question. Lot of things. You already named one. You like that he's a butthole? Temperament matches the drapes. Looks good in blood and better in tears. Favorite thing's the tail. Sometimes it frizzes up if you... He catches himself, clears his throat. It's not hard to let the disappointment show in my expression. Vere is one of the most honest people you'll meet. Just don't listen to a single thing he says. He's very honest. Don't listen to him. Those sound like complete opposites to me. What about sweet Kuras? I didn't know that you and Kuras were friends. In a way, I help him in the clinic sometimes. Doctor doesn't let most people closer than arm's length. And you do? Heart's on my sleeve. But you only wear one sleeve. Get the sense Kuras was like that in the past. Must have been burnt. He trails off after the last few words, then shrugs. He opens up in his own ways, if he's relaxed enough. I don't know how to even imagine that. You'd be surprised. Even the doctor has an endearing side. I can't decide what's more intriguing, the fact that Kuras has an endearing side, or the idea that Eyes has managed to coax it out of him. Tell me if you uncover any of his other secrets. I'd kill to know more. What about sweet Mihin? What's going on with them? Maybe Mihin doesn't necessarily like you, but they definitely pay attention to you. Eyes' reaction takes me off guard. He growls, pinches the bridge of his nose, as exasperated as I've ever seen him. I make enemies as easily as I breathe, Sparrow. Doesn't bother me. But that dove's got it out for me for no reason. Maybe they're unsettled by the sea spring. It's not about that. Goes without saying that they've got some issues. Don't think they understand that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Honey has left a bad taste in my mouth in the past. It could be the same for them. At least you're capable of a conversation. Do me a favor and teach the doves some manners. Thought they'd lay off eventually if I didn't bite. Hasn't happened yet. I briefly considered the possibility that Mihin wants to get bitten. I'm not about to purpose that, though. Ooh. What about Leander? You and Leander clearly get along well. What was that whole thing about you two being rivals? You like Leander? Yes. Yeah, Leander's my favorite. He's gonna betray me so hard, isn't he? He's gonna do something awful, and then I'm gonna hate him. I just know it. Doesn't everyone? He's helped me a lot since I arrived in Eridia. He even got me a free room at the Wet Wick. His charms have gotten him far, but for a leader, he sure likes it when others take control. Duly noted. Part of me desperately wants to ask what he means, but Eyes continues before I get the chance. Surprised we get along? I thought you'd be at each other's throats instead of drinking buddies. His smile is easy, but there's a dangerous edge to it. Leander's done a good job. For a human. Naturally, there'll come a time when his resolve is tested. Same could be said for anyone, in this plane or the next. As for my resolve, well, stick around in Eridia long enough and you'll find out. Cute. I nod, slowly. I can't decide if it sounds like a promise or a threat. Got any more observations, Sparrow? My main point is that, speaking from experience, being an outsider usually means you don't have friends. I don't. I level him with a tired look. Fine, I'll confess. I have one friend. Don't say yourself. Akudius. What is Akudius? My skin prickles at the name, hair standing on end. Who's that? A friend. It lives in my head. It lives in your head. Eyes taps his temple with a finger. Right here. Scared you off yet? That'd be the third bad impression I've made on you today. I'm stunned for a long moment, processing what he's just told me. Then I burst into a fit of laughter. You're serious? Eyes grins wide enough to flash his fangs.
Deadly.
It sounds so fluffing absurd, I can't help it. On top of everything I've gone through today, it feels like I'm living a fever dream.
Who is Acudius?
I've come so close to death more times than I can count, encountered tame soulless and a horrifying group mind, and now I'm supposed to believe that there's someone living inside Iz's head. There are tears in my eyes by the time I rein myself in. Iz waits patiently, lips quirked in amusement.
Sorry, it just sounds so ridiculous.
The tension that wound my shoulders so tightly has melted away, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe. I feel better.
Dukas! Where in the rats behind are you? You better not be dead.
Raucous, guff shouts rise in the streets, echoed by the sound of heavy boots sloshing through mud. The voices share the roughneck's accent from the bar, the same roughneck who is still, maybe dead, and lying bloodied across from us. I nearly forgot about him. I was half expecting him to get up while we were talking. I shove to my feet as their voices get louder. They're closing in, quick.
Oh, snap.
Iz pulls me by the waist out of the alley, away from the beaming moonlight.
Oh, we're so close.
We dive into a nook between buildings, veiled in the shade of tattered canopies. It's a tight fit. Iz boxes me in against the wall, his body all but pressed against mine as he towers over me. For the second time today, the heady scent of smoke envelops me, but this time cut with the metallic tinge of someone else's blood. Iz pitches his voice low.
Quiet.
My heart leaps into my throat. I'm suddenly acutely aware of the heat radiating off Iz's body, the feeling of his legs grazing my thigh, the closeness of his breath. This is bad. I squirm against him and earn a burning crimson glare.
Do we really have to?
His hand covers my mouth, muffling my whispers. He shakes his head. Don't.
Dang, he's over here. Dukas, wake up, you butthead.
A group of individuals, all brandishing spiked weapons, fill the alley. They all wear violet sashes, some kind of uniform. I wish I could see what they're doing, but Iz's arm all but blocks my sight. My eyes trail up to the teal markings. They coil around his arm, his bicep. They lead up to Iz's collarbone, to the cords hanging around his neck, and to the smuggest smirk I've ever seen.
I'm gonna stare at his chest. I am looking disrespectfully, sir.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of options. My eyes dart away from his face, following the line of his neckline down to his chest. The way the pendant hangs above the line of his abdomen, just before the skin gets swallowed by darkness. A thrill jolts through me, my face hot beneath his touch. This can't be happening. Why am I getting worked up in this situation?
Why aren't you getting worked up in this situation? This is the perfect situation to get worked up.
Voices in the alley grab Iz's attention this time.
Merde. He's got more broken ribs than whole ones. What kind of freak did this?
Ooh.
Fan out. Find the butthead responsible. You three, take Dukas back to base. At least he's still breathing.
The alley clears out as footsteps rush away from us. We stay still until they're distant, melting into the rumble of the corridor. Only then does Iz take his hand off my mouth. When we finally step back into the moonlight, the night air is ice on my skin. I feel dazed, and the need to keep my eyes off Iz at all cost.
Was that really necessary? From the sounds of those guys, I think it was.
The tremble to my voice is nothing but embarrassing.
Staying hidden was the best option. Would be a hassle to run into them with you there.
What? Because I'm dead weight?
Because 3 bad impressions are enough for one day.
The answer is too vague for my liking, but he's probably right. Either way, I don't have the energy to argue.
Come on, Sparrow. Let's get you home before you're framed for murder.
Very funny. We reach the front of the Wet Wick too quickly. I hate to admit it, but I don't want to separate from Iz yet, and not just because he never answered my questions. He's infuriating. As easily as he makes me feel on edge, he can make me feel safe, secure somehow.
You know where to find me.
At the creepiest place in the world?
Take your time before you decide to drink. I happen to like your crappy attitude.
It takes me more a moment to process it. Then my eyes flutter down to my feet. I'll keep that in mind. When I glance back up from the ground, Eyes is already down the street, disappearing into the throng of people. No fanfare, not even a wave. Butthole. An intimidating yet laid-back outsider, Eyes presides over a sea spring with unnerving powers. He offers you a miracle, but the price means submitting yourself to the horrifying presence at the heart of the spring. Will you gaze into the abyss for answers, even at the risk of losing yourself? Okay, who's next? Let's learn a little bit more about Kuras. Hot on Kuras's heels, I squeeze my way out of the bar. Of everyone I've met, he seems the most likely to help me, and the least likely to murder me on a whim. Earlier this morning, he said I could go to the clinic for help whenever I needed it. Time to see if that promise was actually worth anything. I breathe a sigh of relief once I'm free of the crowded bar. Kuras, hearing me, turns my way.
Espoir, you seem upset. I take it the Amaryllis district is not to your liking?
The mage who raised me sometimes made bizarre comments about the Amaryllis district, and now I think I have an inkling of what she meant. That's not why I stepped out.
You are not in need of treatment after that fall, are you?
I scowl up at him, and he holds out his hands in a mollifying gesture.
I apologize, Espoir. Please continue.
Time. Someone interrupting me. Someone cuts right across me towards Kuras, stopping us both in the middle of the street. Even in the dim pink haze that seems to blanket everything, there's no mistaking the pressed white uniform and stiffly starched hat. Another Senobium cleric. I hastily step back, making myself as inconspicuous as possible.
Can I help you?
Nervous onlookers hastily part around Kuras and the cleric. The two form an island of white in a sea of teeming color.
Enough! You know why I'm here. Then I hope you find this edifying.
Kuras reaches into his coat pocket and produces 3 tiny glass vials, bound together with a thick leather cord. A silvery powder shimmers inside. He gently flicks the glass, watching the contents swirl, and extends the vial to the cleric.
This is it?
They look extremely unimpressed.
Appearances can be deceiving.
He throws me a glance and a swift smile, but I'm too surprised to respond. Kuras was the first to warn me about the Senobium. Nobody I had met had anything good to say about them. And yet here he is, openly dealing with them in the Amaryllis district. I glance between Kuras and the cleric, who seems to notice me for the very first time.
Good night.
They bow to Kuras, offering me an extremely perfunctory nod. What does that mean? Should I be offended? And disappear into the seething crowd.
Espoir, is something amiss?
What was that all about? Yeah, what was that all about?
Lower your voice. It is of little consequence.
That's all you have to say? After the earful you gave me about the Senobium?
Shh. Be calm.
He holds one finger to his lips, which suddenly curl in a cat-like smile.
For now, please, join me on a short stroll.
Okay. Hehehehe. Kuras's golden eyes twinkle in the low light. He beckons me away from the main thoroughfare, down a side street filled with vendors hawking late-night snacks. Did you do some shenanigans, Kuras? Did you do some trickery? Did you do some tomfoolery? What? Wait! Now, powerfully curious in spite of myself, I hurry after Kuras. Each of his long, graceful strides is easily 2 of mine. I catch a glimpse of his gleaming white coat disappearing around the corner of the street. The moment I catch up, the delicious scents of freshly baked goods flood my nose. My stomach gives a loud rumble. 1 honey pistachio cookie, please. Coming right up. Honey pistachio? Ooh. Without breaking his swift pace, Kuras plucks the sticky confection out of the merchant's hand and offers it to me. The heavenly smell makes my stomach rumble once more. I take a bite without hesitation. Kuras watches me with an indulgent smile, and I notice he hasn't gotten anything for himself. You're not hungry? You need not concern yourself with me. He stops mid-sentence, his eyes darting back the way we came. The hairs stick up on the back of my neck. I turn just enough to peek over my shoulder, hoping I don't look too suspicious. Sure enough, it's the same cleric who waylaid us in the street, now wearing a thunderously angry expression. Uh-oh. Well, disappointment can be a learning experience. Glimmers of realization dawn over me as I stare up at him. What exactly was in those vials? Perhaps a rare and potent alchemical catalyst. Or some stale fish skin. The two do resemble one another, and it can be hard to tell them apart. Is he serious? I chance another glance at the cleric, who's now trying to elbow their way between the food stalls. A few people make way, but most don't even notice their efforts. The street is far too crowded with hungry patrons. Shall we? Without even waiting for a response from me, he glides swiftly into the crowd once more. You're messing with them. Good on ya. You're messing with a Senobium cleric? Such impolite behavior. I am astonished you would even suggest it. Kuras! I must still look incredulous, because his smile softens a little. He lifts his hand as if to pat my shoulder, then stops himself. As I said, you have nothing to fear. He ducks into what looks like an abandoned doorway, but opens into a small, covered market. The stalls here are full of more spices than I knew existed. Even taking a short breath makes me sneeze. Kuras slows his pace, occasionally pausing to examine the insistent hawker's wares. Wait. He looks up from a display of livid red leaves, each as long as my forearm. You said I have nothing to fear, but everyone in Eridia seems wary of the Senobium. People fear the obvious trappings of power, wealth, force, or a hideously ostentatious tower. From my past, I find such trappings merely disappointing. The Senobium once had great potential. They squandered it decades ago in the pursuit of trinkets, pleasure, and petty tyranny. Their narrow, prosaic interests have rendered them blind to all else that moves. I think that's the most I've ever heard Kuras say on any topic. You sound like you know them well. Kuras let out a long, low sigh. You, Miss Little Espoir. Familiarity breeds content, and I am more familiar with the Senobium's crude methods than I would like. Now I'm getting somewhere, something beyond vague warnings or swift deflections. I decide to press the point while I have the chance. Familiar how? Kuras stops right in front of a display of pickled fruits, and I nearly run into his back. He steps aside at the last moment. His arm rests gently but firmly on my waist. I tense, but he's careful to avoid my bandaged hands. Our pursuer refuses to take no for an answer. Them again? I thought we'd lost them in the crowd. I crane my neck to look for the cleric, but Kuras shakes his head. This way. The next street over seems to be home to the high-end brothels. It's full of steep stairways and shadowy passages, perfect for discreet tryists or losing a persistent tail. Pink curtains and painted facades sprawl around me like a giant, colorful warren. It only takes a few more twists and turns down blind alleys and narrow walkways before I'm completely turned around. Kuras, however, seems to be following some map in his own mind. He takes each turn with swift confidence, guiding me with the occasional nudge. The gaps between teetering buildings can hardly be called alleys, so narrow we have to pass through them single file. Just a little further. The effortless grace which he moves is almost infuriating. It takes every ounce of concentration I have just to avoid tripping over loose tiles, discarded clothes, and unidentifiable rubbish. Ooh. Meanwhile, his long legs almost seem to float over every obstacle. His clothes are still completely pristine, despite the soot-stained walls on either side. How the heck does he do it? Some sort of enchantment woven into his jacket? A glamour spell? I'm still trying to puzzle it out when I realized how warm it is, with me practically tripping on his heels. The tiny gap between us seems to radiate heat, like beating midday sun on the longest day of summer. Oh no, we're staying close. I definitely don't want to get lost here. I stay as close to Kuras as I can without actually touching him. I promise I will not lose you. Was I that obvious? Our eyes meet, and despite my best efforts, I find it hard to hold his gaze. I've never seen eyes like his, despite our dark and dingy surroundings. It's like Kuras radiates his own light whenever he looks at me. Oh. Thank you for indulging me, Espoir. I believe we have lost our tale. Yeah, but he knows where you work, doesn't he? It's much quieter on the edges of the Amaryllis district, and the deals in the shadows look shadier. Did you enjoy your impromptu tour? Relief escapes me in a tired laugh. After the day I've had, playing keep away from a Senobian cleric seems almost normal. I wasn't in mortal peril, so that's a nice change of pace. He laughs too, a soft and pleasant chuckle, completely at odds with his usual cool demeanor. Are you sure we've lost that cleric? If there is one thing you can count on, it is the elitism of the Senobians' finest. They will not deign to follow us this far. He sounds confident enough. I was starting to wonder if we'd have to make a full circuit of the city to ditch them. A beam of moonlight cuts through the clouds, casting his face in sharp relief. However, I should escort you back to your lodgings. It would be unwise to let you go alone. What about you? Are you staying at the Wet Wick? Of course not. Then you're going back to your clinic alone? You just said that was a bad idea. He pauses, stares at me, then his expression relaxes into a gentle smile. Fear not, Espoir. Only the most desperate or foolish would dare lay a hand on me. It sounds insane after 2 near-death soulless encounters, but part of me believes him. The few people who are still out, huddled beneath street lamps and in doorways, desperate to be as close to safety as possible. Kuras, on the other hand, looks more relaxed than I've ever seen him. He's strolling down the middle of the street, bold as if it were broad daylight. Even walking alongside him makes me feel more secure, warmer both inside and out. I hang on to that faint spark of hope and screw up my courage. Did you mean it this morning, when you said I could come back to you for help? Every word. All his earlier mirth vanishes, replaced by calm focus. I don't know what to say to that. I almost expected his offer to be a courtesy, an easy way to get me out of the door. The fact that he meant it. Why do you ask? I believe I have already made my intention to help you quite clear. His eyes flick briefly to my arm, the one he miraculously reattached when he found me. I can almost imagine him counting the neat stitches. I just wanted to make certain. I'm still figuring out who's trustworthy and who's trouble. I see. Eridia does tend to attract extreme individuals. Including you? Ah, Espoir. I decline to incriminate myself in your eyes. I can recognize a smooth deflection when I hear one, though if he won't talk more about himself, maybe he'll tell me more about someone else. I decide to ask about, what does Kuras think of Leander. Why do you send me to Leander for help?
Few know Eridia better than Leander. The company he keeps can be questionable, but I had confidence in him.
Yeah, his bloodhounds seemed rough around the edges.
Leander has always preferred the company of those like him. Survivors of Lowtown's harsh realities. You must have noticed how they flock to him.
I nod. He seemed to know every single person in the Wet Wick. And that's a good thing?
Leander's closest peers trust him with their lives. I would say that counts for something.
Oh, that's all? That's all you're going to say about him? What about Vere? How do you know Vere? Oh yeah, didn't he not even say hello to Vere? How do you know Vere? I don't. End of story. Ugh, what's with that look, sir?
Kuras visibly stiffens, and I remember the venom in Vere's voice when he grabbed me. That fluffing doctor.
It looks like the feeling is very much mutual.
Regrettably, Vere is one of my worst patients. How did you cross his path?
He stole my room key.
You are fortunate that he did nothing else. He is far deadlier than he seems. There is a reason he is not at liberty. A reason for the collar and chain.
He seemed pretty dodgy to me already. I hesitate, waiting for Kuras to elaborate, but he seems to find even the thought of Vere distasteful. Oh, that's all you're going to tell me about him? Okay, fine. Do you know Eyes? Have you ever been out to see Eyes at the Sea Spring?
Once.
Only once? Seems like the spring with miraculous powers would interest a doctor. A long silence follows, so long that I'm not sure Kuras heard me. I'm about to repeat myself when he finally speaks in a near whisper.
Eyes is the rare newcomer who has proven himself immediately worthy of respect. The Sea Spring is another matter. Hidden depths often contain unwelcome secrets.
You could say that about anything around here.
A fair point. Nonetheless, I have seen many purported wonders, and the Sea Spring is unlike any other. Only time will tell what that means.
Sweet Mihin? You and Mihin sounded like you knew each other well. Kuras heaves a long, suffering sigh.
I know them better than most, and less well than I would like. Like you, Mihin is a recent arrival. Their time here has been particularly difficult, as much as I would like to help.
He trails off, but I know exactly what he's talking about. Mihin didn't seem like the sort of person who would accept help easily. Do they always pick fights that are twice their size?
I have implored them not to. They rarely listen.
With my curiosity sated for now, I fall silent. I wish Kuras had given me just a little more to go on, but he seems almost as tight-lipped about the others as he is about himself. Yeah, what's up with that? By the time we're back at the Wet Wick, the Amaryllis district seems noisier and even more ruckus than before. Drunken patrons overflow into the streets, which reek of spilt wine. How am I supposed to sleep with all this racket?
I suggest the stiffest drink at the bar. Alternatively, a ball of wax.
Very funny. Even with how tired I am, I'm not sure I'll get a wink of sleep. I'm about to say goodnight to Kuras when someone staggers out of the Wet Wick and right into me. I stumble back, heels teetering on the edge of the filthy gutter. Espoir! The next thing I know, a pair of warm arms catch me around the waist. I find myself staring up at Kuras, pressed against his chest. His grasp loosens, but he doesn't quite let me go. Something shifts in his gaze. His eyes fix on my face, and I feel myself growing hot all over at his intense scrutiny. What does he see in me? What's he looking for? Kuras?
Ah, my apologies.
You could say it, Kuras. You just think I'm cute. Even after he moves away, the warmth of his touch lingers through my clothes. I quickly tug my cloak straight, trying to recollect my scattered thoughts. Good night. Thanks for everything today.
You are most welcome.
He turns and slips into the crowd, though I can pick out his pristine white coat with ease. A chilly gust howls down the street. When did it get so cold out? Oh, 'cause he's not nearby, so he's not. You don't feel warm anymore. Aww. Aw, that's so cute. Kuras, the repentant angel. From all appearances, Kuras is a principled doctor of extraordinary skill, but you know little about the man beneath the professional mask, and Kuras keeps even his friends at a cool distance. If you uncover his deepest secrets, will you like what you find? Sweet Mihin is next. What do they have to say? I can't let Mihin slip away so easily. They might be the most standoffish person I've ever met so far, but they're the only one who seems even close to neutral on this Senobium. My gut tells me they know more about that tower than they're letting on. By the time I make it out of the bar, they're already halfway down the street. Drawing my cloak close to ward off the chill, I hurry after them, but at this hour the Amaryllis district is full of carouseling people. While Mihin slips through the crowd with surprising agility, I struggle to keep pace. The edge of their cloak flutters as they round the corner. Determined to at least try and catch up, I take the same turn into a dim side street. But Mihin is nowhere to be seen. Didn't you learn your lesson earlier? Ah! I'm sorry. I nearly jump out of my skin, whirling to find Mihin right behind me. They don't even look ruffled. They knew I was following them the whole time. They fold their arms, pointedly staring me down. I thought nearly getting eaten would teach you that being out alone at night is dangerous. I'm not alone, am I? I'm with my best friend, Mihin. We have the same mole, kinda. It's a good thing I'm not alone then, isn't it? Mihin looks at me in blank confusion for a moment before realization dawns. Are you always so persistent? I don't really know how to read them. They shift between aggressive and hesitant without warning, and I have no idea how to tell which way they'll swing. But I can't help feeling a little thrill when pink seeps across their cheeks. I kind of have to be. It's how I stay alive. Mihin recovers their composure quickly, their mouth shifting into a frown. They glance away, eyes sweeping across the street. You've been lucky so far, but it won't last. Nobody in this city is trustworthy. Not even you? Especially not me. I've met clams that opened up more willingly than Mihin, but even if they don't talk about themselves much, they must have opinions about... what do you think of Kuras? You seem to be best friends. You and Kuras seem to get along, though. The tense lines of Mihin's features soften. He's an exception. Few people are willing to help others. Fewer when there's any risk involved. And of them, Kuras is unique. Oh, is that a smile? I see you smiling, Mihin. I have a feeling that Mihin doesn't smile often, but the curve of their lips, however slight, is unmistakable. They catch themselves, their expression closing off with a near-audible snap. He's not the worst. A decent doctor, even if he asks too many questions. But nothing is really free here. Unique is one way to describe his work. Unconsciously, I grip my stitched arm, where the soulless severed it. Mihin glares at me almost knowingly. The only one of its kind, not replicable by anyone else. It's a fitting word. I wonder what injuries Kuras has healed for Mihin, and whether they know how he does it. But if they did, I doubt they'd tell me. What about Vere? You don't seem to like Vere. Nobody seems to like Vere. How did you meet Vere? Instant disgust. Mihin's face scrunches like they've just bitten into a rotten lemon. That perverse flea bag jumped me during fogfall, so I stabbed him and left him in the gutter where he belongs. My heart thuds hard in my chest. Their voice is icy with disgust. The night air feels warm by comparison. It's only a shame it didn't stick. I suppose I'll just have to keep trying.
Goodness. What did Vere do?
I remember how they dispatched the Soulless earlier. Understanding anatomy is one thing, but that precise clinical strike spoke of practice. I wonder how many times they've killed to get so good at it. I take it your opinion hasn't changed. He messes with people for kicks. Every sentence out of his mouth is either crass innuendo or a conceited put-down, and whatever he's done is bad enough that the Senobium has him on a leash. There are monsters living on every other street. He's the only one who needs a muzzle before he's taken out for a walk.
Belatedly, I close my mouth. No more of that. What's your deal with Leander? Why were you scrunching your face up at him?
Leander seems fond of you. He's an idiot. An obnoxious blowhard who can't shut up to save his life. Their words are harsh, taken at face value, but it's at complete odds with the flush creeping across their cheekbones.
Is that all?
They huff. It seems to physically pain them to speak again. He does acceptable work. He pays on time, which is more than I can say for most, and his bloodhounds look after Lowtown. If he was capable of being quiet for more than 10 seconds at a time, he'd be almost tolerable. Their tone grows almost fond, but then their brows draw together as they glare at me. But I'm not one of his bloodhounds. If he told you otherwise, he was talking out of his butt, as usual. He has work to offer, and sometimes I take it. That's all. Somehow, I doubt that, but Mihin seems disinclined to say more.
What do you think about eyes? Did they even talk to each other?
You don't seem to like eyes. I don't like anyone, but especially not that bloodthirsty gangster. The words tumble from their mouth before I can even finish my sentence.
Did he do something to you?
Beyond existing, no, but I'm not waiting around to get hurt first. That sea spring he runs, with all those smiling, red-eyed people, I suppose his one saving grace is that he hasn't forced anyone to drink from it. Yet. Monsters like him don't know or care what they have. It makes me sick.
Their voice echoes down the empty street, startling me.
I blink, staring at them.
Mihin is able to raise their voice?
You really don't like monsters, do you? Mihin fixes me with a flat gaze, their pale eyes like chips of ice. Every monster forced their way out of the shroud and into this world for some reason. I may not know Eyes' reason, but to the vast majority of monsters, humans are food, playthings, or beneath notice. That may simply be their nature, but I don't have to like it. And I'm not going to risk my life in the hopes that any of them is different. A lot of humans fear or hate monsters, but there's something different about how Mihin talks about them. It sounds personal.
Monsters killed my grandma, okay? Wait, that probably checks out.
If you're going to keep asking questions, ask about something else. Doors bang open at the end of the street. Light and laughter pour out of the bars, following by a group of giggling people in white uniforms. Uh-oh. Senobium students having a night out on the town. Mihin hesitates only for a moment before they start down the street in the same direction as the students. When I follow close on their heels, they grimace, speaking through gritted teeth. Why are you still following me? When I ask them about Vere, I notice something odd, besides their vehement dislike of him. While Mihin didn't exactly sound enthusiastic about the Senobium, they were the first to speak of it with anything besides open animosity. Ahead of us, the students pile into another bar. Mihin ducks into the alley next to it. If nobody in this city is trustworthy, what about the Senobium? The line of their narrow shoulders abruptly tenses. They lift their chin, giving me a wary look. Kuras must have warned you about the nature of the city's currency. Right, information and secrets. I fidget, uncertain. I don't trust Mihin's mercurial moods, or all the things they clearly aren't saying. Their eyes dip towards my hands, passing over the bandages like a razor, the pressure light but full of keen-edged possibility. I shiver, hastily shoving my hands into my pockets. They frown, but their gaze drifts away from me to the window of the bar next to us. It's opaque, either frosted glass or caked in dust, but some of the warm light diffuses out into the alley. The Senobium is a place of learning. If someone has questions that can't be answered anywhere else, the Senobium might have the solution. Or at least, that's how it was once upon a time. These days, its doors are closed to outsiders. That's about what I expected after I was particularly shooed off earlier. Just as I start to relax, they speak again. Whatever you're looking for there, the cost may be higher than you're willing to pay. The sheer hypocrisy of their words ticks me off. What gives you the right to talk when you're doing the same exact thing as me? What questions are you asking that only the Senobian can answer? That's personal. So there is something Mihin is looking for at the Senobium. I suppose that makes two of us. If they're following groups of Senobian students around, they must not be having such luck either. Everyone else seems to fear or hate the Senobium, but you don't. They flinch, spurred onward by curiosity and my lingering annoyance. I press forward. You must know something about them, something you haven't told Leander or Kuras. But they're not letting you in, which means you're one of the outsiders. Oh dear. Oh, they're all up in my face. And their eyes kind of look a little teeny bit red. In the space between one breath and the next, Mihin closes the distance between us. Slender fingers grip the front of my shirt, and they slam me against the wall with shocking strength. The force of the movement knocks their hood back, messy hair fluttering around their face. I'm standing on tiptoe. Mihin's lifted me nearly clear off the ground with a single hand. Ooh. The realization sends an electric tingle down my spine, but before I can begin to wonder what that's about, Mihin snarls in my face. You don't know what you're fluffing talking about. The angry twist of their mouth draws my eyes down to the beauty spot at the corner of their lips. I can't seem to stop staring at it. It's incongruously delicate compared to the fire in their gaze, the steel-boned strength in their grip, but then so is the rest of them. Yeah, I'm going to talk big even though I'm clearly at a disadvantage. Neither do you. Neither do you. We're practically strangers. Why are you acting like you know anything about me? Do you know what these hands can do? Like, I'm giving out the hands, but you don't want these hands. Your line of questioning isn't exactly subtle, and it's not hard to guess that this has something to do with your hands. You think you can use me to get into the Senobium? Don't be naive. I don't get angry easily. I can't afford to when a moment of carelessness could be fatal, but when they mention my hands, my temper flares hot. Who says I'm the one who needs you? Realization strikes me like a thunderclap. You're not getting anywhere by yourself either, are you? But you can't make yourself ask for help. You're stuck, and it's your own fault. I brace myself, expecting Mihin to snap at me again. Instead, their gaze drops, eyes falling away from my face. Their brow furrows in frustration, but the twist of their mouth is miserable. Their voice trembles almost imperceptibly when they speak. I know. This city only cares about what you can give, or what it can take from you. Information, power, connections. If you're an outsider here, nobody will help you. Nobody will even try. You don't belong anywhere. My heart thuds in my chest for an eternity. My heart thuds in my chest for an entirely different reason now. They seem, suddenly, very small. Alone, like me. Mihin. Ow! Mihin jerks backwards, releasing me so abruptly that I nearly stumble. Maybe they realized how close we were. Maybe they said too much. I'm gonna press forward. They'd probably like me to let them go, but I'm gonna press on. Determined to not let this go, I press forward. Mihin takes another step back, but this time they're the one with their back against the wall. Look, we both want something from the Senobium, right? But neither of us are going to get anywhere on our own. We could help each other. It's worth a shot, don't you think? Mihin sighs. They sound annoyed, but any real hostility seems to have gone out of them. You've made it this far already, I'll grant you that. But if you're looking for help, you should look elsewhere. If you stay too close to me, you'll get hurt. Before I can think of what to say, the tavern doors bang open again. The Senobium students spill back out, considerably drunker. Their ranks seem to have swelled with other barflies. The group floods back into town, towards the great tower, rising moonward. As I'm distracted by the commotion, Mihin slips away from me, drawing their hood up. I catch their eyes for just a moment, then they're gone, vanishing into the crowd. Cool. Mihin, the cursed outsider. Despite their cold nature and familiarity with violence, Mihin is just as desperate as you to get into the Senobium. You may be able to help each other, but they're keeping as many secrets as you. They claim they're dangerous, but could they be your only chance at getting into the Senobium? And last but not least, let's hear from Vere. Vere, a lot of people seem to really not like you. Vere knows more than he's letting on. I'm certain of it. And if he's feeling as playful as he was earlier, I might be able to get that information out of him. Still, lingering doubt looms heavy over my decision. Can I really trust someone who lies so readily? Well, if we learned anything from everyone else, he tells the truth, just don't listen to him. Returning to the bar is slow work, with the heavy crowd vying for drinks. When I find Vere, he's leaning against the counter with his elbows propped on the edge and a wine glass raised to his lips. Not for the first time I catch myself staring, and judging by the looks I see thrown his way, I'm not the only one. Yet there's a clear ring around Vere no one else seems bold enough to cross. Aw. One ear perks at the sound of my approach, but Vere doesn't so much as look my way, even when I slide into the seat beside him. I didn't think you planned on sticking around. A free drink's a free drink, even if it tastes like rat pee. Didn't you say you wouldn't be caught dead slumming in this crap hole? Vere takes a delicate sip from his glass, but his tail thrashes below the bar. You've caught me red-handed. He peers at me over the rim of his glass. In the low light, his eyes glitter, jewel-bright with amusement. However will you punish me? I figured my company's punishment enough for you. Vere's lips twitch, and he smiles despite himself. So, you survived the night. Are you here for praise, or will a head pat do? Head pats, please. I feel a muscle in my jaw flex at the cruel twist to his smile. His arrogance has made a full recovery, meaning only one thing. Vere has sobered up. So much for my plan. About that, turns out you were right. I did run into trouble. Now I can't decide if you're an oracle or an actual threat, or just completely full of crap. Vere scoffs. Most women would buy me a drink before insulting me. After the way you jerked me around, if anyone's owed a drink, it's me. Vere falls so uncharacteristically quiet that for a moment I fear that I've actually crossed a line. Then he props his chin on his wrist. I don't think you understand how things work here. Information is a luxury. One you flung carelessly aside. I'm not following. If you valued my words, you'd have taken them seriously. I gave you free advice, warned you of the danger you were in, and still you went prancing off to the sea spring. Small wonder the soulless didn't tear you to ribbons. My first impulse is to argue, but what he said doesn't sit well with me. How does he know what happened to me? How do you know I left Eridia? I have a very sensitive nose, remember? Right, how could I forget? Do you normally greet people by shoving your nose into their laps like an over-eager Labrador? For a heartbeat, Vere's eyes grow wide and flat. Then he laughs under his breath. Only the ones I like. Vere trades his empty wine glass for a long-abandoned tumbler sweating beside him. Soft lumps of ice bob in the watery dregs of whiskey. But the truth is, I despise most people. His eyes flicker over my shoulder and thin as Leander's boisterous laughter erupts from the other side of the bar. What about me, now that we've started off on the right foot? He turns, angling so he can look me over. His gaze is agonizingly slow as it glides over me. Finally, his lips quirk. I haven't made up my mind about you yet. It's a start, or so I think, until his eyes slide away and he turns back towards the bar. It's not Vere's attitude that bothers me. No, I expected that of him. It's the fact that I've got no idea how I'm supposed to hold a conversation, much less get answers, when he's being so testy, and his foul mood is infectious. Did I do something to make you mad? He lets out a short breath. No. Another lie. I'm close enough to catch the subtle bristling of his tail. Aw. I'm just disappointed. People like us can't help but attract danger, yet you seek it out, and for what? Cheap thrills? I wasn't trying to get eaten by a soulless. There's something I'm looking for. And you think Mihin can help you? Leander? Are you really willing to risk your life with those idiots? What life? You've got no idea what I've gone through, or... Forget it. I start to rise, but... Vere touches my shoulder. It's little more than a brush, but enough to give me pause. His eyes search mine, softer somehow than before. They couldn't even begin to understand you, but I could. I could help you, if only you'd listen. How do I know I can trust you? You don't, but I'm slightly less inclined to waste your time with empty flattery or insults than those two. Is what you desire really worth risking your life for? If you knew the kind of life I've led, you wouldn't be asking. Vere considers the condensation sweating from his glass for a long moment before speaking again. Will you trust me? For now. For now. Good enough for me. Vere raises the tumbler to me, then snaps back the dregs. Once he's finished, he wipes his mouth on the back of his hand. Let's talk. Outside. If I have to smell Leander's skunky aftershave for much longer, I'll hurl. With that, he slips away from the bar, leaving me to follow the path of his long trailing tail through the crowd. Tail. Want to touch? It's probably very soft. It's so cold outside. The breeze cuts clean through my bandages, freezing my fingers, but if the chill bothers Vere, he doesn't show it. He lopes purposefully down the street into an alley. This far from the Wick, the bar's racket is a little more than an indistinct hum. This street's as dead as the Amaryllis district was crowded. I wonder, fleetingly, how many unfortunate lives have been ended in this dingy alleyway. We're following him down a dark alleyway? You had questions. Ask. Vere's breath mists in the dark. In the cold moonlight, his shadow stretches unnaturally long over the cobblestone street. Quickly, I've got a show to attend. Heavenly Lutus, as I'm sure I've mentioned. He looks down his nose at me, effortlessly imperilous with one hand set on his hip, and for breath I'm reminded of the stark want that gleamed in his eyes when he touched me. If he weren't so pretty, I'd walk away. He is very pretty. But I need answers, and I can't think of a better way than starting with the people I met earlier. If Vere doesn't prove trustworthy, maybe one of them will. First, I'll ask about... What's your deal with Eyes? You were drinking together. You must be friends, right? I'd like to know more about Eyes. You two seem close. He made an impression, Not surprising. He's strong, ruthless, easy on the eyes. Gives it almost as well as he takes it, even if he's awfully greedy. Big everywhere, really. You don't say! You're making this poly route seem more and more viable. Bit simple, but you know what they say about still waters. I don't, but I'm too distracted by the change that's come over Vere to ask. A coy smile plays at his lips as he winds a finger around the chain dangling from his collar. I thought you didn't like most people. Eyes isn't most people. He's better. Our eyes meet, and Vere's tender expression curdles. He makes a tiny sound of distaste in the back of his throat. Aw. He's more trouble than he's worth. Dangerous, too. Stay far away from him and those red-eyed freaks if you value your safety or your sanity. Is that why you scolded me for going to the sea spring? I really don't think Eyes is as bad as you're saying. You don't know him, not like I do. I would like to. The corner of his lip twitches. What about sweet Mihin? I've got to admit, I was surprised to see that you and Mihin know each other. Are you friends? Oh yes, we laugh and go shopping and have sleepovers where we braid each other's hair and kiss with a little tongue. I'm beginning to wonder if Vere's ever had friends. Let me guess, you don't like them. Can't stand them. The first time we met, they stabbed me. Slid cold, hard steel between my ribs. Nearly nicked my heart. It was exquisite. The knife, I mean. Some sort of antique. Mihin's done nothing but disappoint me ever since. So you're not close. Can you imagine being friends with that crabby little killjoy? Impossible. Not unless they learn to lighten up. And I'm afraid not even a surgeon as practiced as Kuras could remove the stick wedged firmly up Mihin's pert butt cheeks. That's pretty funny. What about Leander? What do you think about Leander? I don't. An unusually curt answer for Vere. I don't buy it. So you're not very fond of him? I wouldn't spit on Leander if he were on fire. Aww. Leander, what did you do? This sounds like something that was entirely your fault. Vere shudders. Oh no, he'd enjoy that far too much. To call Leander trash would be an insult to manure. Goodness. He's a pathetic, slimy little man-child in big, shiny shoes. I've seen mutts rutting in gutters with more dignity. Goodness, Vere. Insult of the century. I have to remember to close my mouth. Before I can ask my next question, Vere gives a frustrated growl. Don't you dare ask me about another soul. I haven't got all night for idle gossip. But I wasn't finished asking. You get 2 more questions. Make them count. So much for being helpful, but I suppose that's just how information works in this exhausting city. No more time for idle chatter. I'll get straight to the point. Leander told me that the Senobium imprisons people. Did he mean you? Leander's a moaning fool with a throbbing victim complex. He loves to see himself as a savior, but the only difference between his cronies and the Senobium stooges are the uniforms. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what surprises me more, the bluntness with which Vere spoke, or the venom lacing his ordinarily silken voice. You're asking who when you should be asking why. Says the butthole counting my questions. The look he throws me is infuriatingly self-satisfied. Fine, why were you imprisoned? For the same reason they'll disappear you, given half the chance. I'm something special. Vere bows his head, gathering his hair in his hands and lifting it from his shoulders to bare the plain leather collar adorning his neck. See this collar? He cranes his neck, inviting me to lean closer. Looks unremarkable, doesn't it? Maybe to the untrained eye, but there's an enchantment just barely visible, like letters embossed on old parchment. Intricate spellwork has been inscribed on the collar. If I touched it, I might be able to figure out what kind of magic it holds. Why is that my only... Well, I guess we're gonna touch the collar. I reach forward to touch the buckle, but... Vere's hand lashes out. Long, slender fingers wrap around my wrist, exerting just enough pressure to hint at how easily he could snap my bones. Tch, don't you know better than to touch without asking? He tuts like a scolding teacher, but an impish smile grazes his lips. You didn't ask me first. Sir? You didn't ask first. Why should I? Our eyes meet and he grins. Because I said so. That's not very fair. Fluff fairness, life's not fair. His voice lowers to a pleased rumble. I'll remember that, and I'll use that against you. Patience, espoir. I'll tell you when and how you can touch me. Behave, or I'll make you bleed. Okay. Was that an innuendo, or was that a threat? I think that was a threat, but that was a very sexy threat. He says it with a smile so sweet it hurts. Is that a threat or a promise? Vere doesn't answer me, but he lets go of my arm. I smooth down my bandages, more to get a grip than anything else. I can't lose my composure again. By now, I'd fully expected Vere to begin walking away, but the fact that he's still here suggests that he either forgot about his warning, or he was never counting my questions to begin with. Are you saying that's what'll happen if the Senobium finds out I'm different? I'll be collared? Doubtful. They keep me around because I'm the best at what I do. And what exactly do you do so well? Killing. Oh, okay. He says it, carelessly, without hesitation. As long as I wear this collar, I'm made to hunt down the Senobium's dizzying array of enemies. Monsters, soulless, noisy dissidents who grow overbold. I'm bound by their will until the day I die. Or until I find a way to free you, but then again, that doesn't sound like that would be a very good idea. That's awful. Vere mutters in agreement. It is, isn't it? And that's all you're getting from me. I really must leave now. I'll be late. That's it? Why'd you bring me here if you weren't going to explain anything? He has the nerve to laugh. Isn't that obvious? I wanted to lure you out here alone so I could eat you. Oh no! Don't get me. You're lying again, is he? And you're asking far too many questions for someone hiding so much. He sneers, and reflexively I shove my hands deep into my cloak. What makes you think I'm hiding anything? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the tough act, or the way you tense up at the slightest provocation. More likely it's the bandages. Not exactly subtle, I'll be going, unless you're willing to share some morsels with me. I got cursed fingers. If I touch you, you're gonna go crazy. Why are you keeping that a secret? There's a biting edge to his playful tone. I can't tell you anything. Wrong. You can start with what you are. I take a step backwards, but... My back hits a wall as Vere follows me in lockstep. I turn, only to find his left hand resting on the wall beside my head, caging me in. Oh no, don't do that. Vere reaches for me. His fingers curl around my chin and lift, forcing me to meet his lidded gaze. Would you believe me if I said that the eyes are the windows to the soul? My eyelid twitches. Cliché, I know. But let me tell you a little secret. Vere leans in until his lashes tickle my cheek and the warm, faintly spiced scent of his hair drowns out the stench of greasy cooking fires and chimney smoke. There's nothing you can hide from me. His voice is so low, so supple I could slip into it. The misery born of your mistreatment haunts you. I understand what it's like to be used and thrown away.
I'll give your life new meaning.
I swallow thickly. How could he possibly know? No, this must be some kind of trick. But for once, Vere isn't smiling. He's doing something crazy with his eyes.
All that suffering has made your soul so irresistible.
His piercing eyes pin me to the spot. The look on his face makes my blood run cold. I've seen it before. Traveling through the wastes, the lanterns would occasionally reveal carcasses picked clean by starving scavengers, whose eyes shone in the dark with the same ravenous hunger. Oh wait, are you actually going to eat me? Were you not kidding? Vere takes a shuddering breath.
You're trembling. What if you and I went somewhere quieter, alone?
What are you going to do if I surrender? What are you going to do? I'm sick of running, of hunting, of suffering. Surrendering completely is the easiest thing I've ever done. Before I can finish, Vere hushes me. A gloved thumb runs across my lips, bringing the taste of leather when it dips into my mouth. He bends closer and closer. Through the gauzy veil of his hair, I see shadows spread in whirls of smoke, eddies of darkness peeling off the walls and blooming to blot out the moon. Oh yeah, that shadowy thing he did before. Sensation flees with the light, leaving me numb to everything except the sudden pressure of a hand tightening around my throat. Something snaps, and the bitter tang of copper floods my mouth. Vere's lips crush mine as he swallows the reedy thread of my final breath. This time, death comes swiftly and permanently. I died. He was telling the truth. He totally killed me. Gosh darn it. Well, okay. Oh, it just puts me right back. Okay. Hey, player, maybe next time don't do that. All right, it just it says don't do that. Don't surrender. Just resist. It only gave me the one option. Part of me wants nothing more than to let him take me, to surrender completely to him. It would be so easy. But I'm not about to give up now. You're late. The lutist. Vere blinks. His voice comes out soft and breathy.
Shame.
He eases back, and for what feels like the first time since he cornered me, I breathe, but my relief is short-lived. Nimble fingers trail down my jaw before closing around my throat. The touch is feather-light and teasing, but my pulse still leaps. Vere's lips twitch into a smile, his white-ringed pupils thinning with amusement.
You're fun, Espoir, even if you frequently forget your place. But if you ever call me a dog again, I'll break you. Understand?
When I narrow my eyes at him, he smiles wide enough to flash his sharp white fangs, as much a warning as a smirk. As soon as Vere releases me, I sink against the alley wall to catch my breath. He looks down at me, his expression distinctly smug.
Let's get one thing straight. I ate a monster 3 times your size for breakfast. 2, actually. The first tasted dreadful, like a fisherman's old ashtray, but that's besides the point. You and I may be alike, but don't ever forget what I am, or what I do best.
He flashes me a dazzling smile. Espoir? Anyone seen Espoir? Leander's voice echoes from the direction of the wick. I whip around. I nearly call back before remembering Vere's apparent distaste for Leander. I glance back at Vere. He gone. Only he's gone, vanished into the dark. I'm left in the deserted alley, trembling with a delirious mixture of exhaustion and excitement. Only once my racing heartbeat slows do I make my way back to the wick, guided by the distinct sound of Leander's voice.
Vere, the chained charlatan.
Vere serves as a warning of the dangers posed by the Senobium. As cunning as he is curious, Vere finds you fascinating and insists that he can help, But trusting him means entrusting your life to a collared beast with a lethal reputation. Can Vere protect you, or are his honeyed words a trap waiting to snap shut?
Yeah, he legit killed me. You legit killed me, sir. How dare you?
Well, aside from, cleaning up some other decisions that I don't really think mattered in very much anyway, that was TOUCHSTARVED. And whoo boy, I would love to see more of these fine gentlemen, especially Leander, who's probably going to horribly break my heart, and Vere. He flat out killed me. He didn't even worry about it. This game is still being in development, and I will leave a link to it in the description, so you can keep up with their updates and follow all their social media stuff. So my heart right now belongs to Leander, but I would love to hear who's your favorite in the comments. I mean, they're all very pretty, obviously, but I like what Leander's showing me. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Take care of yourself. Have a great night, and remember, there is always hope.